The New York Rangers are definitely a team who are heading into this offseason with the intention on more than likely being a very active team. And of course, that's because this was a very disappointing season the New York Rangers just had. They did not even make playoffs after previously making the Eastern Conference Finals. So, of course, this team is not going to be happy with those results there. They're going to want to make some upgrades in certain areas. And, heading into this offseason there was lots of trade talk, mostly around kind of two New York Rangers players on this roster, being, of course, Keandre Miller, who is currently still on this team, but very well could end up getting dealt away at some point in the near future, and, of course, Chris Kreider, who has already been traded away. So I think one other player, though, that definitely should be in trade talks there for the Rangers to possibly look to trade away is Carson Soucy, and there is a big reason for that. Of course, he was picked up at this past trade deadline from the Vancouver Canucks by the Rangers there, of course, giving away a third-round pick. So, a decent asset there for Carson Soucy, who at the time there, of course, had, one extra season there. So we picked him up at this past deadline there, and he had one more season after this past season, of course, under contract. So he's got one more year in 25, 26, and then will become a UFA next offseason with a cap hit for this upcoming season of $3.25 million. So at this point now, with how things kind of went there with Carson and things obviously didn't go too great, there's definitely some talk kind of starting to come up here about possibly trading away Carson Soucy, and I definitely think it makes a lot of sense for this Rangers team to look at because, yes, a guy like Carson Soucy, I think, can potentially be a quality defenseman for this team. I don't think he's going to be a great top four caliber guy, but he could still be a decent, defenseman for this team. But of course, with a cap hit of $3.25 million, and this team already having a guy signed like, an Urho Vakanainen there, and they also got a guy like Matthew Robertson, a decent prospect there, who's in his mid-20s now, who, may end up getting a bit of a look or a longer look next season there, possibly, as he got a little bit of a small sample size there, making his debut at the end of this past season there. So he's all starting to come up there through the ranks. So maybe this team is willing to trade away a guy like Soucy, and if they can, it definitely would make a lot of sense there. And it's not going to be easy because I don't think too many teams are going to be looking to, take on that full contract for nothing unless, maybe I'm wrong there, which I kind of have been there because I was pretty shocked, with the Rangers getting back a fourth-round pick and Urho Vakanainen for Jacob Trouba at the start of this past season there. So maybe I can be wrong here again, and maybe we do get rid of Carson for nothing, or maybe I end up getting back like a seventh-round pick, which I doubt, but you never know. So point being, I think if you can get off that $3.25 million cap hit, you should do it because that can be a pretty big difference in kind of what this team could be able to do in this upcoming offseason via, the free agency signings they could possibly make or via trade as well, because you take a look at kind of getting rid of a guy like, Chris Kreider, for example, there you trade away that $6.5 million cap hit entirely, and then you also, let's say hypothetically, trade away a guy like Carson Soucy as well. Well, that's almost $10 million you have just saved there, right? That's $9.75 million you have just saved in cap space there by trading away Kreider and hypothetically Carson Soucy. So basically, if you now go out there and trade away a guy like Soucy and his entire cap hit, you basically saved about $10 million in cap space, which would definitely be more than enough to go out there and get yourself a guy like Vladislav Gavrikov, for example, or maybe an Ivan Provorov, who I'm not quite as high on as a guy like Gavrikov, but either way, you could get that great kind of top four caliber defenseman possibly, and then go out there as well and still have more than enough money to go out there and pick up a decent third-line center, right? Might not be a guy like Sam Bennett level, but still could definitely be a more than quality third-line center and that true great kind of top pairing or top four caliber defenseman, and maybe even have a little bit of extra cash available as well after that. And you've definitely just improved your team quite a bit there by dealing away guys like Kreider and Soucy. So to me, this would definitely be a move that if it's possible to do and a team is willing to take on that cap hit there, especially, all of it possibly, and the team doesn't have to give up like a crazy pick or prospect to get off that contract, to me, it is definitely more than worth it. And next up here, let's take a look at an article here from Yardbarker where they end up saying, according to reports, the teams see Carson Soucy in the final year of his deal with a $3.25 million salary cap hit as one that could and should be moved as GM Chris Drury looks to shore up the back end of this Rangers lineup that has seen major changes in recent times, notably with the trade of Ryan Lindgren. And right now on this Rangers team, there are definitely some pretty big question marks on the back end there for this defense core, because you take a look at the right side there, it's pretty much locked up, right? You've got 3 guys under contract right now, 3 solid guys as well. Of course, one being a pretty great one, number 1 caliber guy in Adam Fox. Then you've got 2 really solid defensemen I would say, in Braden Schneider, of course, and Will Borgen. But then after that, on the left side, there's not a whole lot there, and there definitely are some question marks. First off, you got a guy like Urho Vakanainen, who, of course, got that 2-year extension worth $1.55 million per season. Decent kind of depth defenseman there, number 6/7 guy. That's fine, whatever. But then you take a look at the other guys. You have, of course, Carson Soucy, who has 1 more year left with a cap hit of $3.25 million, and he did not look great in a New York Rangers jersey. So maybe looking to kind of flip that contract and get rid of him makes a lot of sense there, of course. And then you also, of course, have guys like, Zach Jones, who is an RFA with arbitration eligibility. So maybe he stays, but my guess is he should end up leaving. So that's probably that. Then you've got Matthew Robertson, who I would expect to kind of, remain with the Hartford Wolfpack there to begin next season. He can be a decent kind of more depth guy and possible call-up, but I don't think he's ready for a full-time role in the NHL. Then you've got Keandre Miller, who, of course, an RFA with arbitration eligibility. Lots of question marks and kind of trade talks surrounding him. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens with him. So there are a lot of question marks right now with this team, and we're going to have to wait and see what they decide to do, because if they go out there and they trade away a guy like Carson Soucy, well, now they have to go out there and make, definitely multiple ads on the back end there. But if they go out there and, don't, obviously, and they keep Carson and they re-sign Keandre, then we're pretty much more than likely running it back with almost the exact same defense core, which I would not be happy with at all. So there are definitely some big question marks right now with this team, and what they decided to do with Keandre Miller and Carson Soucy are definitely going to have a major impact on what this team is going to be able to do and kind of potentially add this offseason on the back end, because right now they have 5 guys under contract, being Adam Fox, Will Borgen, Braden Schneider, the 3 right-sided guys there, and then you have 2 lefties in Soucy and Urho. But like I said, Urho is more of that kind of 6/7 guy, and Soucy, I think, is best served kind of on a bottom pairing at this point. So to me, I'm not quite sure what this team's plan is, especially if they do bring back a guy like Keandre. So as of right now, I'm hopeful we do see Keandre Miller traded away alongside Carson Soucy at this point there. So we see Kreider, Keandre, and Soucy all traded away there, and then this team is opened up, like about $15 million or so in cap space there, hypothetically, with what you'd have to, go out there and, of course, have to pay a guy like Keandre and what you'd be getting rid of, with the contracts of Carson and Kreider. So to me, you'd be saving a lot of money there, over $15 million, hypothetically, in that scenario. So it definitely could make a lot of sense there, and that obviously also opens up those direct roster spots on that left side there to add in an impactful guy, hopefully, like a Vladislav Gavrikov. But anyways, of course, if you have enjoyed this video, definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on it. Do you agree with my kind of take and thoughts there on trading away a guy like Carson Soucy is probably what's best for this team there to save that $3.25 million in cap space? What do you want to see happen with Keandre Miller? Do you want to see him remain on this team or go? And kind of what do you think this team's plan is for that left side of the defense core? Because like I said, they've got 5 guys signed right now, and then if you go up there and you re-sign Keandre Miller, well, now that's, 6 guys, of course, locked under contract, and maybe you are able to go up there and add 1 more guy, but is that going to be a really impactful guy, like a high-end guy with the contracts of Keandre and Soucy still on this team, hypothetically, right? So there are some big question marks with this team going forward. We'll have to wait and see what happens there, but I'm definitely excited to see what moves are made, but hopefully it is the right ones to make this team a whole lot better than what they were last season there. And also, of course, definitely don't forget to click that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.